I said, Lord, I'm tired. It's 5:45 a.m. on a Monday morning. I'm going back to sleep, okay? So there's a reason all these stones are up here, not in your hands. Just I've learned over the years. You can't throw them if you don't have them, okay? So I tried to go back to sleep, and when that didn't work, I tried to reason with God. Do any of you do this? You try to reason with God? Isn't that fun how that goes, right? The creator of the entire universe, who created you, who knows your every thought before you even think it, right? And you're trying to reason with him. It doesn't work. It doesn't go well. But my reasoning with the Lord went a little like this. Lord, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. It was only like a solid 8 hours instead of a solid 10. And I'm really exhausted. And you're waking me up right now. And you created me, you know me. You know that I'm tired. I can't do this right now. So come back in a little bit, maybe heal the ulcer so that we can have some coffee together. And then I'd be really happy to hear this message that you want to put on my heart. And I'll write it down and we'll do the thing, Lord. We'll do it all. But no. God kept us gently in the very loving, patient way that he speaks to my heart, putting verse after verse, and just thought after thought until I finally got up, and I thanked him for the very loving, patient way that he speaks to me, and I wrote an outline. So, as I mentioned, I'm not a morning person. I'm just going to go ahead and keep confessing to you as it's confession time. I'm also not a night person. So, I'm wondering, what time of day person is she? Basically, like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Those hours of the day, I'm going to be really fun to be around for the most part. I'm going to be very patient. I'm going to talk kindly. It's going to be a great time. Let's get together. But 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. are no-no hours. Okay, my children have learned this. During the daytime, come to mom. She will speak calmly and sweetly and patiently. She will give you all the things you asked for. It's basically all yeses and hugs and kisses. After 9 p.m., when I have prayed for you and tucked you into bed and sung the songs and done the things, do not come to mom, because mom is no longer nice, okay? So my kids have learned in the middle of the night, they don't even come to my side of the bed anymore. They don't even bother to wake me up, because they get like this angry grizzly bear version of me in the night. So they just come over to Sean's side of the bed and wake him up for the things they need. 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., no hours, okay? And the Lord knows this about me. And 10 hours sounds excessive, I get it. But if you don't sleep for a solid decade, because you have 5 kids back to back, and no one intervened. Why can't anyone intervene? No one told us that wasn't maybe the best idea, okay? When you don't sleep for a decade, you need 10 hours a night to make up for lost time. All of my exhausted parents and all of my night shift workers, can I get an amen? Amen. Thank you. Yes, you get me. Okay. Everyone else is like, what's her problem? Anyway, so I'm tired. I'm having this little conversation, me and the Lord, and he's loving, he's persistent. So I get up and I write this outline. Now, sometimes God tries to speak to us like this, and we just can't be bothered, right? And it's not because we don't love him, or we don't care, or we're not walking closely with him and we can't hear his voice. It's just that we're tired. And you may be hearing this morning regardless of your personal caffeine intake, and I'm really jealous of you, or the full night of sleep that you may have, you're tired. You came into this place today and you feel weary, or you feel heavy burdened. And I want to tell you this morning that if you walked in here this morning feeling that way, you're not alone. You're not alone. We are all tired from the normal stresses of life that we carry. And we're tired because we carry things that we have picked up along the way that we shouldn't have. And we're tired because we carry things that were placed on us by others that God never intended us to carry. So I have this, isn't this darling? Oh, it's heavy. It's really heavy. I have this sweet little backpack here. This is Lydia's backpack. She let me borrow it, so thank you, Lydia. I should have maybe made the straps a little bigger. Oh, it's heavy. Okay. God says in Matthew 11:28-30, he says this, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." If you were here last week, you heard Pastor Jeff share the parable of the banquet, where instead of inviting all of the more affluent people or influential people, he invited the people who could never pay him back. He invited the people who were lame and misfits and who had nothing to give. And he invited the people who normally society would say, they're not worth it. And I love that God speaks again in this verse that all people matter to him. Every person matters to God. Jesus says, "Come to me, you who are weary," right? "Come to me, you who are heavy burdened." He doesn't say, "Come to me, you who have it all together." Thank God. Okay? He doesn't say, "Come to me if you have a perfect credit score." He doesn't say, "Come to me if you never say or think a negative thing." He doesn't say, "Come to me if you have a TikTok-worthy organized cabinet and cupboard." If you guys aren't aware of what TikTok is, it's this stream of videos, and somehow most of mine are all of these very organized things, and I look at my house and I'm like, wait a second. It doesn't line up. I don't know. "Come to me who never skip leg day." Where are all my people who like to work out? Nobody. Thank God we're all together in this. Oh, way to go. Give them a round of applause. Great job, never skip leg day. All right. "Come to me, you who always call your kids by their correct names and get their birthdays right when the advice nurse asks at 2 a.m. That's personal for me. That happened this week. Okay, moving on. He wants you to come as you are. He calls to you if you are weak, if you are weary, if you are heavy, burdened, if you are tired, if you are broken down, if you are ready to give up, if you are in need of hope. He calls to you. Because you don't have to have it all together for him to say, "Come to me, and I'll give you rest, and I'll teach you, and learn from me, and work with me, and be with me." It's a very intimate call, you guys. Jesus is saying, "Come and be with me." Do you know, when my children say, "Mommy, be with me," that's an intimate call, because they have an intimate relationship with me. They know me, and they want to be around me. My child would never go to a random stranger and say, "Be with me," right? Kids are afraid of strangers. God has an intimate relationship with you and desires for you to come to him. He's saying that he will be your peace. And he's saying to stop carrying all of these heavy things, because that's not what he wants for you. He says, "My burden is light." So stop trying to do this in your own strength. Verse 28 says, "I will give you rest," and he will. But I want to point out that the very next verse is a call to work. The rest is not a hard stop, okay? The work isn't finished in this verse. The rest allows us to regroup and renew and restore for the work that is ahead. Because the very next verse says this, "Take my yoke upon you." And that's a call to work. Now, if you're having a moment where you feel like Jesus has played a little bit of a bait and switch on you, he hasn't. Sit tight, we're going to break it down. A yoke is a tool, it's this carved wooden frame that they would put on animals to bring the animals together so that they can share in the load of the work. So Jesus in this verse isn't saying, "I'll give you rest because we're done, because it's over, we're all finished, you can just take a rest and we're all done." No. He's saying, "I'll give you rest because there's more work to do." He's saying, "Come and join me in the work that I'm doing, in the work that I'm calling you to do with me, in the work work that I created you to do and uniquely gifted you to do. Because the work that you do with me in my strength will help you to find rest. And all too often we're busy doing really good things. And that feels good to us. But it's not necessarily the thing that God has gifted you or called you to do. I'm going to say that again. Good work is not necessarily God's work. And when we get busy doing good work, you guys, we can miss out on the work that God is specifically calling and gifting you to, and you can get so tired doing good work. God says that is not my plan for you. He says, come to me and do the work that I have for you, and in that you will find rest. Do not get distracted by good work. So we get tired and we get weary and we get burdened down by all these things. And we labor under these things that we weren't meant to carry. Oh, I'm going to pull a little something out of here. Hold on one second. I have in my backpack here some things that I personally have carried. They're heavy. This first rock that I carry is the need to please people. If you carry the need to please people, you know that instead of feeling like a little rock, it can feel more like a boulder, okay? Because it is impossible to please everybody. It's not possible. You cannot do it. So all my people pleasers, just take a big breath. It's okay. We're going to get through this. You cannot please everybody all the time. I went ahead and did a fun little experiment. I created 5 of my own people to test this theory, and it proves true every time. Someone is always unhappy, okay? I love the beach, and I was so excited when we moved here. We were so much closer to the beach, and so one of the first days we got here, the house wasn't even fully unpacked. We're going to the beach. So I pile all the kids in the car, we drive out to the coast, and we're not even, I don't know, like halfway there. It's a 20-minute drive or something. And I've got one kid in the car who's like, Mom, I'm so car sick. And we get to the beach, and I get one that's like bolting for the waves and like no fear whatsoever, and one who's happily building sandcastles, and one who's like, Mom, it's really windy and there's sand. And then I've got another who's trying to get the snacks out, and I'm like, Mom, you didn't pack the snacks that I like. Just, someone's going to be happy and someone's not. It always works out that way. Also in our house, our family, we make a lot of pancakes because they're cheap and we're cheap. And all of my children seem to like pancakes cooked in varying degrees of doneness. So some of them like them virtually raw. It's really disgusting. Like you cut into it and in the middle it's still like gooey. And so we started that spectrum on one end. And then on way this side, there's Chloe, who likes her pancakes, like burnt. Like black on both sides, tap it and it cracks apart. And there was one time where I apparently didn't cook her pancake to the proper amount of burntness. And she took her pancake and literally just had it on a plate and looked me dead in the eyes and stepped on her garbage can lid and just went, and dropped the pancake in the trash. And I was like, ooh! So, she went to her room and didn't get any more pancakes, but someone is always going to be unhappy. You cannot please people all the time. Drop that thing down here at the foot of the cross because it's not worth carrying. Okay, second rock, here it comes. Oh. Not enough. That's a fun one. This is a nasty little lie that the enemy wants us to believe, right? We go and we go and we go and we give and we give and we give and we do and somehow it is never enough, right? It's never enough. And in every season of life for every person, that looks a little different. In my season of life right now, it looks like dishes somehow always still in my sink, always. It looks like laundry still somehow always piled up on that one section of my couch that I'm like, just it's fine. It looks like kids that still need kisses and floors that still need to be swept and stories that need to be listened to from my preteen girls. Long stories, right, for me. They're so long. And it doesn't matter how much I seem to give, it just feels like not enough. So, we drop that. Because carrying around not enough is heavy. And God doesn't intend for you to carry that, and He doesn't intend for me to either. I'll share one more story about not enough. It seems silly now, looking back a little bit, but at the time in my very, very sleep-deprived postpartum state, it was not silly at all. So, Lydia was 2 weeks old. I think we have a picture of 2-week-old Lydia. Oh, my baby. That's why we just kept talking over. Anyway, so we had 2-week-old Lydia, and we wanted to celebrate her coming into the world. And by the way, your pastor has many things on his resume. Delivering this baby is one of them you may not know about. He delivered her. Thanks, Sutter Davis. Way to go. Anyway, so we go up to Tahoe. We're going to take a little trip up for the weekend to just celebrate this baby girl. And it's been a long day of driving and a great day at the lake, but we're all very tired. So our friends had a house up there. We're staying at our friend's house. And Lydia's at this stage of nursing where it's called cluster nursing, and she just wants to nurse little bits on and off all night long. And around 2 a.m., I just pull my incredibly groggy self up from sleep to nurse this sweet, sweet little baby. And she looks up in my face, and as I'm looking down at her, I'm so tired that I can't physically get my face to form a smile. Like, the muscles in my face are so exhausted that I cannot bring myself to smile at that precious, precious face. And I start crying hysterically, like really hysterically. And so Sean wakes up obviously thinking something is horribly wrong. And when I explain to him, like, I can't smile. What? What's going on? But in that moment, you guys, something about that just made me feel like not enough. And not enough is a really awful thing to feel. And in that moment, God spoke this verse to me. My sweet husband was like telling me, you're fine, it's great, but I needed the Lord to speak. And 2 Corinthians 12:9 says this. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in weakness. Listen, guys, we don't have to always have it all together. We don't always have to be strong enough or energetic enough or ready to go or have the right words to say. It's okay. It's okay to have moments where we just feel so weak we can't even physically form a smile. It's okay. Because God's power is made perfect in our weakness. All right, this next one, this one stings a little bit. This one is perfection and pride. And these ones go hand in hand because they're driven by insecurity. And perfection says, if I can just get this right, everything will be okay and I'll be loved and I'll be accepted. And no one will have to know about all the junk under the surface if it just looks perfect. And pride says, I've got this, right? I've got this. I don't need your help, and I don't want your help, and I don't need the possibility that you're going to let me down. I don't need you to mess it up or not do it to my standard, so I'm not asking for help. I can do this on my own. And pride is a dangerous trap to fall into because nobody can do it on our own. God did not design us to do this thing called life on our own. It's too much to do it on your own. Now, this is a skill that I am still working at. I am not not good at asking for help. So if you at any point offer me help and I say like, no, it's fine, I'm fine, I got it, just tell me, no, you don't, I'm coming over. Okay, just feel free to assert yourself, it's totally fine. I didn't meet Jesus until I was 12 years old. I was not raised in a Christian home. My mom and dad were divorced when I was 4. My mom actually left on my 4th birthday during my birthday party. So she was packing her suitcase and I was pulling her clothes out and she was stuffing them in and we were both crying and it was very traumatic. And then as she was driving away, my dad was just holding me and telling me that it was not my fault and that I was loved. But never in my life had I felt more unwanted or more unloved. And John 10:10 says that the thief comes only to kill and steal and destroy. And I believed somehow in that moment that I wasn't worth loving. And the enemy used that lie a lot through my life. And I believed that the people that were around me, that they weren't trustworthy, that they could go at any time. And I bought those lies in my life. And I want to tell you today that if you have bought lies in your life like that the enemy has spoken over you, they are just that, they are lies. Because there is a God who loves you so much that he gave his only son to die on a cross for your sins, to tell you that you are enough just as you are. That you are lovable, that you are wanted, that you are not an accident, that you are worth coming for and meeting, that you are worth rescuing and saving and keeping. You are enough, and you are loved, and you are worthy of his sacrifice. We serve a God who restores broken relationships, who makes all things new. We serve a God who silences doubt and fear and rage and shame and pain. We serve a God who restores. And I want to brag on my mom for a moment here because in this story, she didn't sound like that guy, okay? But I have an incredible mom. She is strong. She is so strong and forgiving and loving and kind and patient. And she has gone through so much in her life. And a little while back, she gave her heart to the Lord, and he has done an incredible work in her life. So when my mom shows up here on a Sunday, you guys just love on her. Okay, Adobe? All right. Another rock. You're thinking, like, how many does she have in there? Okay. See, it's getting a little lighter, so that's nice. Oh. Hold on to the ground for a second. I'm just in a little side note. If you were hoping for a perfect pastor's wife, I'm going to go ahead and burst your bubble right now. I'm not her. Sean's pretty close. Hey there. But we are just two people. Okay, we're just people. We're just people. When God said, "Come and follow me," we just said yes. That's it. We have to choose every day, guys, to lay our stuff at the foot of the cross, right? All these things. We have to say yes when we don't want to say yes. We have to say yes to God when he wakes us up in the no-no hours. But I want to say that it's not enough to just say yes. When we come to him to do his work with him, that's not the end of the invitation. The journey doesn't stop there, because Jesus says this. He says, "Learn from me, because I'm gentle and I'm humble in heart." So we need to learn God's heart and develop God's character in our lives, right? It's not enough to just do his work with him, the work that he designed us and called us and equipped us to do. That's not the end of it. We have to do it with God's heart. We have to deal with God's character, with the representation of his love. Because 1 Corinthians 13, 1-7 says this. If I can speak in the tongues of men or angels, but I do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, and I can fathom all the mysteries, think about that, all the mysteries and all the knowledge, and if I have faith that can move a mountain, but I do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all I possess to the poor, and I give my body over to hardship, that I may boast, but I do not love, I gain nothing. It only works when we do it his way. That's why this next one, this one's the hardest. This final one for me to lay down is control. Thank you. Every time I drop one of you guys, I'm going to break your stage. Sorry for whoever built this. You did a really great job. It's really solid. Good work. Okay? Letting go of control for me is terrifying. Just going to be honest. It is so hard. And I'm going to just get raw and real with you guys today. You're not getting the dip your toe in version of me this morning. We're just heading straight for the high dive together. We're just plunging in here today. Sorry, not sorry. I have no shame in sharing these things with you guys because God is a God who redeems it all. Amen. So you're getting total transparency because there is nothing that God cannot use. No pain is wasted. No tragedy that he cannot use for triumph. So here it is, okay? And for some of the reasons I've already shared this morning, I had some control issues growing up. And all the adults in my life reinforced this when I was little, just by telling me how mature and responsible I was, when in reality, I was just terrified. I was just hurting. And so when I gave my heart to Jesus, a really broken, scared, angry 12-year-old, God radically changed my life, you guys. And some of those things happened instantly, instantly, the moment I gave my life to the Lord. But some of those things, God needed to heal over time. And when Sean and I started having kids, control was one of those things that I hadn't fully given over to the Lord. And when our first daughter, Chloe, was born, man, oh man, I went into control mode at a whole new level. Whole new level. I like to refer to Chloe's diagnosis as her special designer genes. They call it Down syndrome. But I gave myself a crash course undergrad degree in PT, OT, speech, child development. I knew every milestone Chloe needed to meet from birth to age 3. I was fully ready to do this, and I thought to myself in this really naive, as if God didn't know what he was doing and I could control it all. Lord, this is just a diagnosis. We can beat this. I'll beat this. If I just love her enough, and if I just do enough, remember that perfection piece? We'll beat this. She'll be okay. Isn't she cute? Oh. And I thought I could fix this for her. Have you guys ever tried to fix something that wasn't broken? Something that God had already perfected. She's perfect. Absolutely perfect. But I was devastated each time she would miss a milestone. And I think to myself that I was failing her as a mom, that I hadn't done enough, or that I hadn't done something right, and I would go back and I would reread all the books, and I would figure out, did I not position her correctly for that exercise, and did I not buy the right toy, and did I not do the right thing? And one day Sean came home from work, and he could tell I was really upset. And he asked me what was wrong, and it wasn't that I couldn't smile this time. This time it was that Chloe was crossing midline, and he asked me this. He said, is she happy? And I said, yeah, of course she's happy. She smiles all the time. She's always happy and smiling. said, then she's fine. She's doing her job, and you're doing yours. Let God do his. It's not your job to do God's job. When he's right, he's right. You guys ever have a spouse that's like always right about things? Like, isn't that obnoxious? I love you. So a few years later, Abby, our third daughter, is born, and she's premature. All of our babies are premature. She comes home from the hospital with her little lungs. She had a few days getting her lungs kind of up and going, and she gets home and she gets what we think is a little cold. And because we've already had a baby with an open heart surgery and a baby who had seizures, a little cold, I'm like, we got this, it's fine. But then, as I'm changing her diaper, she just stops breathing. And she turns blue. And I'm shaking her, and I finally get her breathing, and I rush her into the emergency room. And the doctors are examining her, and they say, yeah, something's really wrong. And so they ambulance her up to the Children's Hospital, and they admit her, and we discover that Abby had whooping cough. And it was that year in California that a lot of babies came down with whooping cough, and a lot of babies did not survive whooping cough that year. And I had a doctor with very good intentions and very terrible bedside manner tell me not to get too attached to my baby girl, as if that's impossible, right? And he told me that it was unlikely that she would be able to recover from this. And so flash forward 6 weeks, Abby's in the hospital like this, and we get her home, and I'm so thankful that she's okay and that she survived, and we're home, and she's recovering. And this was a awful crash course in keeping God control, because it was so clear to me in these moments that I had absolutely none. No control whatsoever. All I could do was pray over her and intercede for her and ask God to do a miracle, because there was nothing else as her mom that I could do. Just nothing. It was out of my control. And so we get home, and I'm having this moment with the Lord, and in this kind of like Samson's mama moment, I'm like, Lord, she's yours. Whatever you want to do in her life, she is yours, God. And so Abby's 7 or 8-ish, and a friend of ours comes and speaks at our kids event that we put on every year, and she gives an altar call, and Abby comes down to the altar, and what does the Lord do with my sweet baby girl that I adore and plan to keep forever? He calls her to the mission field. And I had to have a moment where when I asked or said to the Lord, my daughter is yours, and I trust you with her, I had to have a moment where I had to really get real and honest with God, like, do I really trust you with her? Am I really going to give you back this child that you've given to me? And trust that wherever you take her in the world, whatever she encounters, God, you know what's best. You're in control. And so Sean and I initially were like, oh, but like, our correct response needs to be like, yes, we support the calling of God on your life. Hooray, let's pray over you. So that has been the response that we've given while we've secretly like, Lord, help our hearts. Because as my little girl grows in this calling in her life, and God continues to add pieces to that, it gets scarier and scarier. Sean last week shared with you guys that we're going to be giving and supporting for Project Rescue. If you're not aware of what Project Rescue does, it's an organization that goes in and rescues people out of human trafficking. And my tiny little girl feels a heart for this mission field. It's a dangerous mission field for a woman. So if you think of my little Abby, I ask that you as a body, because this is a family for our family now, that you pray over my little girl. That you pray that God would continue to build that calling in her life and protect her and speak into her. All right, that was a little bit of a tangent. All right. All that to say, I would rather have peace than control. And John 16:33 says this, I have I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. Because in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. And there is nothing in this world that we can face that we cannot have peace in. There is nothing in this world that we cannot overcome, because we serve a God who has already overcome death and the grave. So even if tomorrow looks uncertain, and it looks pretty uncertain right now, you guys, we are not the first to face uncertain tomorrows. And worship team, you can come up. In Matthew 26, we find Jesus in the garden. 26:40. Then he returned to the disciples, and he found them asleep. He said to Peter, couldn't you keep watch with me even 1 hour? Keep watch with me and pray so that you don't fall into temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Then Jesus left for the second time, and he prayed, my Father, if this cup cannot be taken away unless I drink it, your will be done. And when he returned to them again, he found them sleeping, for they couldn't keep their eyes open. The disciples were tired. They were so tired that in Jesus' greatest hour of need, they couldn't even keep their eyes open. And I'm not judging. Not judging. They had a marathon busy schedule leading up to this. And they had been carrying some things that they probably shouldn't have been carrying that added to their burden. And the disciples obviously walked with Jesus and knew him intimately, right? They watched him teach and perform miracles. And by this time, even some of them got it wrong. One betrayed him, one denied him. They doubted him, they questioned him, they tried to correct him. Don't wash my feet, Jesus. I'll never betray you, Jesus. They missed the mark. So I think it's reasonable that we might miss it too sometimes. If they got weary and they carried the wrong burdens, it's not a surprise that we will. If they doubted at times, it's not something to be ashamed of. If you at times question your faith, God is big enough for you to come and question. He has all the answers. They faced setbacks, but that didn't make them turn their backs on the mission that God called them to. They fell asleep in the garden, they denied him in the courtyard, and they watched him die on that cross, but they also saw a stone rolled away and an empty grave. And this morning, God, we celebrated Lord who rose from the grave so that we can have victory in all things. So what makes you tired this morning? What do you carry? What weighs you down? What are your heavy burdens? What is it that you've held on to that you need to come up and lay at the altar today? If someone put something on you that you never wanted to carry, and you're struggling this morning with that pain and unforgiveness, today there's freedom. And it's not about that person. It's not about freedom for them. It's about freedom for you. That's what forgiveness does. It sets you free. Today there's freedom. Up here on the altar, there are some stones and some pens. And during this next song, whatever it is that you need to give to God, I would invite you just to come. Don't worry about your neighbor. Don't worry about people around or behind you. This is a time for you and the Lord. You just come. And whatever it is, just grab a stone, write it down, and leave it here. Because God doesn't desire for you to carry it anymore. He says, come to me. Come to me. Because my burden is light. Jesus, I thank you. I thank you that you love us, God. That you desire for us to come chest.